Hello, everyone. I want to thank the Academy for inviting me to this year's LALKA NOVA conference about connection. I wish I could be there in person with you all, but it's actually a big American holiday at the same time, and I haven't seen my family for over 7.5 months since I've been here in Europe performing and traveling. So today we're going to connect through the screen. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Kevin Augustine, founder and artistic director of Lone Wolf Tribe, New York-based puppet theater company I started back in 1997. So for nearly 30 decades now, I've been writing, sculpting, and performing original puppet works that try to explore what it means to be human, and often without a single word spoken. My connection to puppetry goes way back, and I'll be forever grateful to my grandmother, who was from Poland, for hand-stitching me as a little kid, these puppets she made. Our mission has always been to create intelligent, physical, and highly visual puppet theater that investigates, challenges, and spellbinds. But recently, I'm less interested in the binding of spells with an audience and more with how to connect puppetry to the healing arts. For 17 years, I had my puppet studio in Brooklyn, New York. It was a small basement space, rent subsidized in this 5-story arts building. Mine was the only workshop in the basement. This little room became not just my creative home, but also my spiritual anchor, especially as New York lost its charm for me and its affordability. I built 6 to 10 shows in that room. Yep. And during the pandemic, it became my literal home. I had to sleep there because I couldn't afford where I was living anymore. I was renting out rooms through Airbnb and lost that income overnight as everyone stopped traveling. So I quietly moved into my studio. Converted this little corner. It wasn't authorized, but it kept me off the street. There was no shower, so I used the garden hose in the back. It was a little absurd and stressful and humbling, but it was the only way that I could keep creating. That studio space was my creative heartbeat in New York City. And I've since been doing my puppet sculpting wherever I can in the world, because in July 2022, the building management told me,
after 17 years, it is time to go.
Suddenly, without notice, without any warning, gave me 2 weeks to get out. They weren't going to renew my lease for the 18th year. And this was just devastating for me. I was right in the middle of creating my new show, People versus Nature, while I was touring Body Concert. So I had to move the whole creative enterprise to my, at the time, girlfriend's apartment, which was a bit hectic because making mechanisms for chimpanzees right beside the bed, throws off the house rhythm, but the show must go on. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit now about the creation of my current touring show, Body Concert, because it was created in my Brooklyn basement studio. It's a 50-minute solo meditation on what it means to be alive. It's a show without words, inspired by Japanese Buto dance, which I studied a bit with Saki Iwana and Maureen Fleming when I was in my 20s. On the show, I wanted to make something about connection. And then the opposite of that, what are the feelings like when we are separate? And overall, it talks about the beauty and permanence of life itself. I was determined to make something that would push me physically as a solo puppeteer to my limits. So I want to show you now an early rehearsal when I was first starting out to show how challenging it was to puppeteer using both my hands and my feet.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
So I had to work out daily. It took years to develop the strength to perform the show. Rehearsing for hours and hours. Listening, trying to discover what the puppets wanted to say. Because this was really, I've come to see now, this piece about connection was really coming through my subconscious, where there was a lot of separation in my life. Luckily for this process, I wasn't completely alone. I was able to create a network of what I would call creative islands, different international residencies and kindred theaters, and in America, artistic residencies that gave me space, time, and the belief to keep going. In Quebec, Le Sage Fou invited me to work inside their Fabrique de Théâtre Insolite from 2016 to 2019. The director, South Miller, she eventually made Body Concert a co-production. That was a great connection there. And so this meant not only a place to build and rehearse, but also I would have assistants, interns, and audiences to test the early work in progress on. I was in Norway, Ellen Fiskum Dance gave me a rural residency. We performed more work in progress shows in this converted barn. Those residencies, those artistic opportunities were really deep moments of connection for me in my creative process. They really were the lifeblood that allowed my work to develop and take shape and eventually travel the world, because Body Concert has since been to festivals in France and Norway and Canada, Poland and Austria, and the show's won awards, various awards. But beyond that recognition was the chance to try to connect on a human, universal level. That's what that show is about. And I'm looking to take that further now, because there's something I'm not satisfied anymore with, that separation between the performer and the audience. And I was exploring this in my last show, The People versus Nature, at La Mama in New York last year, and in wanting to have a co-creation, a collaboration between the performer and the audience, and having them get involved in the puppetry, helping bring the puppets to life in a way that thematically let them experience what the characters were going through as well. It was really fascinating. It was a tightrope exercise to see if it would work, but happily it did. And so I'm excited to take these concepts further with the new piece, which is called Hero Bodhisattva. And I'm so grateful to be making new friendships and theatrical collaborations in Europe, forming these new creative islands to help me develop this piece and its concepts that are going to take that connection with the audience further into hopefully what I was talking about in the healing arts, so that something can be theatrical and therapeutic. And I've already had 2 residencies in Estonia, where we first got the foam this foam to make the puppets. And this little guy, actually, I shipped it here to Prague when I was in Tallinn, Estonia. So it was waiting for me here. Here being Libusin, the Czech Republic, where in exchange for this lovely room I've been staying in and doing my puppet sculpting, I've both in the summertime and now in the fall, and do some chores, pick fruit, mow the lawn, pick up the nuts and the pumpkins and take care of the dogs and the turtles. It's been a lovely, equitable exchange. And I'm also really grateful to the Puppet Academy in Bialystok because for the whole month of April, I was there working on the show with a group of students there. And it was a really great time brainstorming, investigating the characters, the concepts, improvising, just getting on our feet and exploring together, and made for a lot of discoveries. And the students, I was happy when they would tell me that it was useful for their creative process as well. So after that month-long residency in Bialystok, the lessons we learned, I took with me then to Paris, where I stayed for a month at a friend's apartment and continued to develop the show. At its core, Hero Bodhisattva explores what happens when we lose connection, especially with ourselves, when we become lost and a part of ourselves becomes exiled deep within us. And using fairy tales, that motif of being far from home in the big forest, and coming to understand that sense of lostness in the forest, that forest is inside us. And Hansel, trapped in the gingerbread house, inside the forest, is inside us. And it becomes then a hero's journey to rescue a missing piece of our soul.
Drodzy Państwo, po tym niezwykle inspirującym filmie mogę powiedzieć tylko jedno. Mamy połączenie online z Kevinem Agustinem i chciałabym Państwa zaprosić bardzo serdecznie na rozmowę.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the end. We have Kevin on the line, so without further ado, I would like to invite you to meeting and discussing with Kevin. We will connect with him live right now. So Kevin, the stage is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Hello, hello. Hi, lovely to see you all. Great. Yes, thank you for watching that. I think I'm going to talk a little bit, maybe 15 minutes, and show a few puppets and then take some questions if you like. So I would like to talk to you I don't know if it's better to have these earphones in or not. A little bit more about the new story, the new show, because watching those clips reminds me of just how much of my life I've been spending making puppets and puppet theater and telling stories. And so this new story is it's very much in my heart right now, about this idea of when we get lost on our road, on our path, in our lives, and how do we find our way back? And this came up for me quite literally a few months ago. I was in France, and I was panicking because I was really lost. My phone, the SIM card in my phone, just died. So I had a rental car. I was staying at a house where I was taking care of someone's dog and cat. And I felt like I didn't know how to get anywhere. I didn't know how to get back to bring the car. I didn't know how without the GPS, how can I go to the store? I don't know these roads. I don't know this little city. It was way out in the country. And I felt like, I don't know if you ever felt this way as a little kid, when you're maybe in a store or a park and you're disconnect from your family. You're like, how can I ever get home? And it was a strange feeling to feel as an adult, just because I remember when I was a teenager being in Europe for the first time, hitchhiking pretty much everywhere. And all I had was a paper map back then, and maybe a pocket full of coins to occasionally call home on a payphone. And it had such a sense of adventure and empowerment. And then I compared that to how I was feeling just a month or so ago. I'm thinking, what's changed? Well, the technology has changed, but has it made me smarter, or has it really made me dependent? Because when it wasn't working, it did not feel good. And it's reminded me, as I've worked, the place of I'm really grateful for all the places I've been working and developing my work, and recently in Europe. And the best place for me has been Poland. I've made kind of the deepest artistic discoveries there. But this sense of getting lost reminded me something at when I visited the Academy in Wrocław and Białystok. The students I met are really very talented. They're open-hearted. They're hungry to create. But I'm being told that there's kind of this new idea, this new directive to educate them more and more in the digital arts, more with AI and 3D printing. And just want to say that I'm not against technology, because I've used technology to make that little film and to help organize my notes to talk to you now. But it does concern me with where we're going, because the students I'm meeting, first of all, they don't build puppets, and they don't plan to build their own puppets. And so that's just so different from me, from how I grew up. I'm self-taught as a puppeteer. For instance, this is the first puppet I've ever made. It's not even a puppet, really. But I didn't go to school for puppetry, and I didn't know what I was doing after I got out of college. And I found an old couch on the street someone didn't threw out, and I just started picking at this material. I didn't know what it would be, but I was fascinated that you could take something that was free and start to transform it. I didn't know if it was a mask or a puppet. But the other thing, I experienced some shows in Białystok where it's a puppet show and they're not using puppets. And I was like, I don't understand that. But it's a practical reason that some of the students feel like puppetry is not going to help them in their career, but they need a diploma. So anyway, I would love to be part, if if we don't go too far into the digital arts and don't lose the old ways of still using your hands to make something, to tell a story, that's transformative. I would love to be part of that because I really do find a lot of joy in teaching. And as I get older, I want to, be, if I can, be a mentor to folks and share what I've learned. This way of making puppets, this is a new guy I'm working on. It's really helped me in my journey, both personally and artistically, to kind of discover who I am and who I want to still become. The last thing I'll say about the digital arts, the AI, my concern is that, connecting back to when I was in France and lost, what happens if we bring our art form more and more into something that we don't know how to fix ourselves, we rely on? What happens if the plug gets kicked out, Because the AI, it can't help you feel through your hands, can't help you discover a puppet's soul, and can't connect with you in the dark with an audience when you're leaning forward. So I just concerns me if we go too far with something that we don't know how to navigate. And so for me, connected to that and the story, it's very personal. Because I wasn't just lost on the French roads for a long time. In my life, I felt very, very lost inside, because it connects to when I was a little kid. I had major tragic losses in my family that just changed everything, changed our future, and very, very painful. And it was at a time when most people didn't know how to deal with that kind of pain, with trauma. There were no grief counselors back then to talk to little kids. So for so many years of my life, all that pain, my father, he committed suicide. My sister was killed in a tragic accident within 2 years. And all that grief that was unexpressed got buried inside. And here's the thing I'm learning now, because I'm taking a course in becoming a grief counselor to help other people to not go through what I did, was because if you don't express that pain, it just comes out in other ways in your life, through anger and mistrust and having difficulty forming relationships. So looking back now, connecting to my new piece, I feel like that character, the little brother Hansel, I forget in Polish, is it Johanna maybe? Being trapped in that house. And he had his sister to eventually unlock the door and rescue him. But I, for so many years of my life, didn't know how to escape. I was trapped inside. And that's why I come back to the puppets, because I didn't even know it. This is where I was saying that it's kind of making a lot of my work has been subconscious, because the puppetry, the puppet characters have really helped be guides to me in my journey when I didn't even know really how lost I was. I was relying on my art form at times to help me find a way. And it was only years later, just recently, that I kind of understood the shows I was making, the characters I was creating. They were in a way shadow selves of things I was going through that hadn't yet learned how to express or to embrace. It was just too painful to kind of acknowledge, and some part of me was coming out through my work, through the puppets. And that too, that's something, how can an algorithm or AI help with that? It was something very, I don't know, it was very deep for me that I'll be forever grateful to. And that's why I really value this art form and would love to, teach workshops and it's great to work with young students, and I just want to keep this alive. So my point being that the work I'm doing now, it's no longer subconscious, but it's very conscious, and I would like to eventually take this work that deals with grief and work with other folks. How can they find it in their body? How do we give it shape, give it expression, tell a story? And I do believe puppets can help with this, and not just metaphorically, but literally. They can be a guide to point the way when we're lost. And the thing about fairy tales is I find it very interesting. You think it's just for children, but really, these were really important stories that help with a child's development and how to deal with obstacles. And for instance, the Hansel and Gretel story, the forest, I see it as the unconscious. Like this is just a prototype I'm working on. I want to build this really big heart on stage that I would be inside. It can move, it could crawl, and eventually, like how do you? This show, I want to show the physical journey of going within, right? This hero's journey, this spiritual quest. How do you touch your own heart? How do you free your heart? So I really want to see this big heart, this beautiful heart that then can open up and things happen. And this idea in the fairy tale that the house being inside and the little brother Hansel trapped inside. How do you release that? And so I want to make this show and also connect it with a workshop that can bring these concepts to help other people do this. How do we rescue ourselves when no one else comes? How do we reclaim the parts of our soul that got abandoned along the way? How do we move from simply surviving towards living with purpose? I've gotten to this place as I've gotten older that I want my work to be not just for entertainment purposes, but something hopefully deeper. And that's also where I want to work with the audience on stage. I'm really fascinated now to connect and collaborate with other human beings in this very sacred space, the theater, as opposed to just, okay, you sit there and look at me. It feels time to go in a new direction with that, using puppetry and myth and story and simple, gentle rituals. And I understand an audience a lot of times, myself included, sometimes it can be very frightening, this idea of going on stage. But you'll be embarrassed or humiliated or look silly, but that's not what it's about. Like when you go to the doctor, if you broke your arm or you need medicine, you have to go into the office, you have to work with the doctor. There's nothing anyway, I'm starting to see theater as medicine more than just entertainment. And so I just like to conclude here saying how I've gotten a lot of help with the work that I'm doing, being all these residencies in Europe and America. And but right now I'm essentially been nomadic. I'm in this little workshop here. I'm in Philadelphia, 2 hours south of New York. And all this stuff here is what I took from my Brooklyn studio. This is much, much smaller. And it's in the back part of the garage of my mother's house, where when I visit her, I get to work here. But eventually, I'm a dual citizen with Europe. So I will be moving there pretty soon, probably in the Czech Republic, to continue this work and hopefully get into the system of funding as well, because it's really tough in America to financially survive and fund the work. So I'm looking, if any of this speaks to you, I'm looking for, new partnerships and friendships and conversations to help build this work, and I'm excited to take my next steps as an artist in a new environment. And so in closing, I think we're living in a moment right now that it's incredibly easy to get lost, right? We can get lost in technology and the constant noise. And for me, this is more in my mind, because it's a lot noisier in America, in New York, than in Poland, which I love. I love that you guys still aren't as crazy noisy here. Anyway, but the thing I want to say is that when we get lost, the beautiful part is that it's possible to be found, can be found. And sometimes what it takes is a guide, and it could be even a small one, a foam guide, just to help us take a step back towards ourself. So that's my mission. So I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for letting me share not just my work, but the deeper reasons why I'm still making it. So thank you very much. And I could show you some more puppets, or I could take some questions if anyone has anything to ask me.
Thank you so much. So now, does anyone have a question?
So, can you hear me? Probably yes.
Yeah.
I was curious, why are you working alone? Like, why? Is it like a mission for you, or you just so into puppets that nobody else is so much into it? like you know.
No. The reason is my early shows. I had quite a few people. But it takes me a long time to make a show. It takes years. So when I premiere the show in New York City, they give you like 8 performances, maybe 2 weeks. And after that, you're finished. So I wanted to make a show that could have a longer life, to tour, to travel. But my early shows, it was really difficult for then a festival to pay for 6 plane tickets, 6 hotels. I kept getting rejections. And I thought, I want to make a show that's very minimal, that makes it very easy to travel. And sometimes it could be lonely, but right now I prefer it because it's just so much easier. There's no other schedule conflicts with anyone. Also, the big reason is money. It comes down to money. The European theaters, sometimes I'm jealous because a lot of theaters have, governmental support to have a company of actors. I can't afford to pay anybody. So it's out of survival to perform alone.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Kevin. It's nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. What I wanted to say, it would be really nice to meet you also personally. For example, here at our school in Wrocław. So I'm looking forward into it. Sorry, I wanted to ask. We can see that foam is your favorite material, probably, for making puppets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask.
It's the simplest. Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so do you also make puppets out of other materials?
Generally, no, because like I said, I'm self-taught. So this is the easiest thing for me to work with. This is the fact that the foam is free, and you only need this tool basically to some of the puppets you did see in the video, like the little baby. He has a few different materials other than foam. He's got the plastic arms and legs, and the silicone hands, and different material for the head. He was the hardest puppet and the most time consuming that I made, because there was so many different materials that generally I don't like to work with, because you have to really be precise when you're mixing chemicals, right? You have to get them equal parts, and it's much easier to make mistakes. And whenever you have to wear one of these, with the, I just hate wearing these things. So I prefer using the foam because it's just so much more, it's easier and just so much more flexible. And because my work usually takes so long, the new show, I don't want to take years and years to make it. So when I'm making those puppets that need other materials, like I said, I haven't been taught how to do this, so it takes me a long time to figure it out. Like, how do you do this? And it makes so many mistakes, and you got to try it again. So I'd rather do something simpler right now, so I can get it on stage a little bit quicker.
Okay. I am also curious, how many puppets have you made?
How many puppets? How many puppets? I'm not sure.
1,000? 100?
Oh, no, not 1,000. I've only had 10 shows. 10 shows, and each show has a new cast. I haven't yet used puppets from one show to the next show. I don't know. Let's probably say 30, maybe 30 puppets altogether. But it's hard to count when then there's pieces of a puppet, right?
Yeah.
There's this guy, he's got all of his body parts, his lungs, and so there's little things. So I don't know. Why do you want to know how many puppets? What does that mean to you?
I don't know. I was just curious, but in the video, we could see many of them, and every one of them was really interesting. So yeah, I was just curious.
Thanks. Yeah, there's this guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
I study scenography, and we have this discussion often during our courses about finding the middle ground between what we think, our own emotions, and between being understood by the audience. Do you think the middle ground is needed, or do you think the emotions speak for themselves? Like, how do you find that? Because that's a very interesting topic to me, because I'm a very emotional person and I base a lot of my work on my emotions. Do you think it's the only thing that's needed to make a good show, or do you actually need to think about the audience more?
Oh, yes. I definitely think you need to think about the audience, because if it's just you on stage having an emotional experience, and it may be genuine and you're crying, but if the audience doesn't care, then you're really all alone. So we have to find a way. That's the art, that's the technique part of how do we take our authentic human experience and our emotion and our joy and our pain, but find a way to put it into a vessel that then other people are interested and care, and it says something to them. So yeah, I do believe there's a middle ground.
How do you make people understand your thoughts?
Well, I think part of it is realizing that we're not, I don't think anything we're going through individually is so unique. Sometimes we think it is, especially if we're in pain. We think I'm the only one who's feeling this. But my mission is really to find a way to understand what is it that collectively, where that we all feel, we go through sometimes, particularly in America right now, like this country half of the country hates the other half. You don't want to talk to the people you don't agree with politically and such. And I just think that's a tragedy, because we have more in common than what separates us. So I think it's having to become really sensitive as a person, as an artist, to find out that's also why I liked making the show Body Concert without the skin, kind of symbolically showing what's beneath the surface. Sometimes we get caught up in, the difference is how we look. Your skin is different than his skin. And so wanting to show the vulnerability, how can you find the vulnerability in what you want to tell, what the experience is? Where do you find that part? And having a mission to want to share something and to make a difference, that's the hero's journey. You go into a place, you overcome the obstacles, but then you have to bring something back to the community, to the tribe. How do you help them, right? It can't be just something that you figured out for yourself. Oh, I'm great. No. Or I had I cried on stage. Great. I feel great now. It's like, okay, but everybody left. So you have to find a way to connect it to everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
I have two very practical questions. One is about the foam, because you work with layers. Is it a special foam or is it like rubbish foam? Because what happens if it tears apart, if the sweat gets inside? It gets old. Do you have to repair a puppet maybe? That's the first question.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the second one is about you working alone and your discipline. Because you don't have other people who rely on you. I don't know how you make your deadlines. And I'm convinced that actually every single human is quite lazy inside. So I wonder how you structure your workday. And how many workdays do you have?
Okay. Well, the first question is, you do have to repair puppets. I do. But I try to make them really strong, so you don't have to repair them as much. For instance, all the puppets in Body Concert, the only puppet I really have to repair occasionally is the big eyeball, because that gets a lot of friction on the stage. It's rolling around, and but in terms of the sweat and things, my early puppets, they did break down a lot, but I don't, what? Part of it is getting older. I don't sweat as much anymore. I'm like much calmer on stage, kind of gotten to this place. So the other one, the work ethic, I guess I could agree with that. Yeah, like we all like comfort, and sometimes I definitely have to push myself to work. And I've met a lot of people who say, other artists say, oh, I couldn't do what I'm doing. They're like, I need another person to work with to help motivate me. And so I've just found ways, or maybe it's just my personality, that I feel the pain of not working. If I don't work for a few days, that pain and discomfort is greater than the pain of working. I just don't feel good if I'm not creating and trying to, and I've come to the point to realize the pain is just part of it. It's part of the process, where sometimes I've done it long enough now that I realize I don't have to be afraid that I'm not going to figure it out, or will this ever happen? It's like, okay, no, I've had the fear before and it has happened. And if you sign a contract and you have to perform at that date, it's like, okay, I know I have to do that. So you have to look at the calendar, say, how much time do I have left, and there have been times where I've had to say, or sometimes I don't like to sign a contract too soon because I don't know how long it's going to take me. In America, sometimes when I would get money from an institution, they would say, okay, this has to be finished in 1 year. And my really early shows, I made 3 shows in 1 year. And after that, it just that's not enough time. It's not enough time. So Thank you for your question.
Thank you. We are surely running out of time. I just wanted to ask one more question. If any of us would be, for example, in New York, is it possible to visit you, or do you maybe have some workshops that you do, not to like in the world, but also in New York, for example, that we could, I don't know, contact you and join it, for example?
Yeah. Sometimes I would suggest if you go to my website, lonewolftribe.com, there's a mailing list that you can sign up. And when I'm doing the workshops, you can know. But also, I'm hoping to be back in Poland, in Warsaw, in March, where I'll be working with the Teatr Gulliver, with their actors. But yeah, I would say sign up to the mailing list, and if you're coming to New York, send me an email, But I don't have my studio anymore, so it makes it a little harder to have visitors.
Okay, and if anyone has any more questions, can we also contact you online through email or something?
Yeah, please. You can find my email through the website, or it's kevinlonewolftribe@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Dziękuję bardzo.